while back I did a review of the original Legend of Zelda and found that I just don't think it holds up nearly as well as most retro gamers claim. A little while after that I did a review of Zelda 2 and found that I actually like it quite a bit more than most retro gamers seem to. Both of these opinions angered my roommate, Peanut Cat Lotta, who yes, is a cat in a pineapple above the sea.
Who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
Peanut Cat Lotta. And being the hateful little cat that he is, she threatened to kill me. I saved myself by the skin of my teeth by asking him to let me do one more forbidden fruit review. She said that I could, and then he would kill me after that. So if one of you could call the police and have them get over here before the end of this review, I would really appreciate it. Ocarina of Time is a game that needs no introduction, but I'm gonna give it one anyway because I don't want to die.
It's the new Nintendo 64.
Nintendo 64.
On Nintendo 64.
The N64 had been out for 2 years. 3D gaming was in its primacy. Graphics were rough, worlds were small, draw distances were short. But developers used what they had to work with. In spite of it all, we got what amounted to short, but sweet, video games. This all changed in November of 1998. A game seeking to break the mold of the current gaming landscape, to go beyond the depths of what people consider to be a video game. To be not just a game, but a story, and an adventure. I played the game as a demo at Toys R Us and one time at a friend's house during a sleepover. Understandably, I wanted to own it. Unfortunately, my parents decided that because there's magic in it, the game is unacceptable. It is of the devil. That's what makes this video a Forbidden Fruit review. Forbidden Fruit is the series where I play video games I didn't get to play growing up because my parents considered it unacceptable, but that I get to play now as an adult of my own free will. Hey, my name's Adam. I'm gonna eat that fruit, you know what I'm saying? The game starts out with a simple introduction. There's a forest inhabited by creatures called Kokiri. I think of them as being something between regular elves, Keebler elves, and Smurfs. Each one has an accompanying fairy, except for this sad loser over here named Link. Had a vision of a princess getting chased by a big man on a dark horse, and the great Deku Tree, the protector of the forest, asks the fairy Navi to go get the one whose destiny it is to lead Hyrule, that's the name of the kingdom, to the path of justice and truth. Now you're probably thinking right about now, oh, I get it, this boy is the chosen one. We got a Jesus figure on our hands. But let's be real, Destiny just needed some poor sap to do its dirty work, so it's picking the kid so lame that even a fairy doesn't want to spend time with him. Navi wakes Link up and they go to the great Deku Tree, except hold on, because already we got some kind of dingus getting in our way. This is Mido, and he's a jealous little guy. He doesn't like how much Saria, another Kokiri, likes us. He won't let us through without a sword and a shield. So bada bing bada boom, we find a sword and buy a shield and we're on our way, baby. The great Deku Tree explains that he's come down with a curse. Down with the spiritual sickness, if you will. And he needs Link to go in and destroy it for him. Obviously he accepts, and we enter into what functions as the first dungeon of the game. As soon as we go in, I immediately can't help but notice the man-eating plants and spiders with skeleton faces. In hindsight, I'm starting to think that perhaps Mido was the good guy and the great Deku Tree was the I mean, Link literally only had the clothes on his back to his name. He had to go find a sword and buy a shield from the store before coming, and the great Deku Tree didn't know he was going to do all that. Great Deku Tree was ready to send a 10-year-old boy, or however old Link is, here to fight off spiders larger than the largest spider known to Australia. Screw you, Deku Tree. Despite being a terrible role model, the great Deku Tree makes a pretty good tutorial of a dungeon. We get pretty well acquainted with the controls and mechanics here. You've got basic sword play. You can alternate between slashing vertically and horizontally, and you can do a jump slash, which does more damage than the regular one. You can defend yourself by holding out your shield with the R button. You have to do this to defeat enemies called Dekus. Other enemies, such as these spiders, are typically defeated by striking when the time is right. They got a vulnerable side and an invulnerable side, and much like with my significant other, you have to strike when the vulnerable side is showing. Since this game is one of the earliest 3D adventure titles ever, it goes a little overboard on the tutorial side of things. The first time you pick up an item will always stop the game in its tracks to tell you in detail what it does, and unfortunately this is something you can't change or skip. It's a little annoying, but for a game in 1998 it could be worse. In addition to items, Navi turns green when by enemies, and if you press C up, she'll describe the enemy and their potential weakness, which is quite helpful and thankfully optional. I hear people complain about Navi, but she never really bothered me. The dungeon is short and sweet. Eventually you reach the boss Goma, the queen of the Dekus. I'm not sure why a giant spider is the queen of walking, talking tree people, but hey, it's a free country, I guess. This is where you begin to really start utilizing what this game calls Z-targeting. You see, the Nintendo 64 wasn't like consoles of today. It only had one analog stick. It didn't have a second one allocated to moving the camera. The C buttons served as the buttons to move the camera in many N64 games, but in this one, they're used for all your secondary items. So instead, when you hit the Z button, the camera snaps to whatever direction Link is facing, or if a target target is in sight, an icon will lock onto it. For what they had to work with, this was probably the best case scenario for a Zelda game. It works pretty well, but you can't rely on it fully. If a target is moving when you shoot something at it, like a Deku Nut, you'll shoot at wherever the target was when you press the button, not where it's going to be by the time it lands. So if something is moving, you're going to need to aim manually. After cleaning out the old tree's Chungus, he gives us the scoop. There's a bad man from the desert who seeks to reach the sacred realm connected to Hyrule, so that he can obtain the sacred Triforce within, which contains the essence of the gods, or in this case, the three goddesses that literally created the world. Din, the goddess of power who created the land, Naryu, the goddess of wisdom who created the law of the land, and Farore, the goddess of courage who created creatures to follow the rules. I've been searching for the meaning of life my whole life, and as it turns out, life is about following the rules. Why were we born? So we can follow the rules. Well, that's all I need to know. Consider me self-actualized.
What is my purpose?
You pass butter.
Oh my god.
Yeah, welcome to the club, pal.
As simple as it is, I like it. I've got a soft spot for primitive creation stories where aspects of the world are derived from individual gods. The goddesses beam themselves up to heaven Star Trek style, and the spot where they do that burrs the Triforce, which finds rest in the sacred realm. The talking tree gives us the spiritual stone of the forest and says we need to go talk to the Princess Zelda in the castle of Hyrule. And then he dies. So what was the point of killing the spider? Link leaves the forest to go see Zelda, but hang on, we gotta get emotional for a second. Soraya, Link's lifelong friend that we've spoken to once for 30 seconds, gives Link her Ocarina and teaches him the song she made. Okay, bye. So Link leaves the forest to go see Zelda, but hang on, there's an owl that wants to tell Link a whole lot of nothing for a really long time. And if you try to rush through and push the A button without pushing down on the control stick first, he repeats himself. And if you're not paying attention, the cycle just keeps repeating itself until you feel like you're going crazy. So Link leaves the forest to go see Zelda, but hang on.
What? What could it possibly be this time?
I'm glad you asked. It's the night. The nighttime is the holdup. The drawbridge of the town closes at night, and if you don't get there fast enough, you have to wait until morning. If you're a beast like me, you'll still end up getting there fast enough. Yes, I have heard of Zelda speedrunning, and I do know about the side hopping strategy. Thank you very much. However, even with my beastly skills, we still need to get this cocoa egg from the little girl Malon so we can hatch it overnight to wake up her dad so he'll get out of the way so we can get inside the castle.
There is so much goddamn waiting in Ocarina.
While I'm not one to feed angry internet gamer guys, I have to agree with the grump not so grump man in this case. Whereas Aaron complains about the waiting and combat in this game in his sequelitis video, which if you haven't seen that you totally should, I personally feel it's sequences like this that are unnecessary. I get it. A part of the point of Ocarina of Time was to make a game that felt big, and a world that felt real. So they made the world one big open space that takes forever to get from one point to another, because in real life, it takes a long time to get to places, especially on foot. And they made a day and night cycle, and what you do is dependent on what time of day it is. Again, in the real world, there are things that you can't do at night. Not everybody has a 24/7 Walmart next to them. Sometimes if you want to do what you really want to do, you have to wait. Here's the thing. You don't always have to be realistic to make something feel realistic. And I think that's where Ocarina of Time falls short. Movies make for an excellent example of how this works. You'll find wannabe nostalgia critics complaining about how something isn't realistic in a movie all the time. But making something truly realistic is almost never the goal of a movie. It's making it unrealistic in certain ways to make the viewer feel like it's real. Take a movie like Terminator 2, for example. One of the more impactful scenes early in the film is when the T-1000 moves through the bars in the jail, but gets its handgun stuck at first. It takes a few seconds to process that the gun can't move through the bars like it does. Then it slowly turns the gun the right way and moves on. Now let's say that there is something like liquid metal and robots with the level of intelligence found in the Terminator movies in real life. Do you think something like that is going to need to take a few seconds to figure out why it can't get a solid gun through solid metal bars? No, it's gonna have that figured out within a split millisecond before it even reaches the bars and act accordingly. It's totally unrealistic, but for the audience, it emphasizes the difference between how the matter of the T-1000 functions and how every other inanimate object functions. It further immerses the viewer in the stakes at hand. It draws the viewer deeper into the world by being unrealistic. What would have drawn me in deeper and given me the sense of exploration I was looking for in Ocarina of Time is if I could go straight from the forest to the castle and talk to Zelda, and then go on little side journeys if I wanted to. Instead, for the average player, the game forces you to wait through 2 night cycles just to accomplish one simple task, and there's not really anything to do at night because Hyrule Field is, quite frankly, empty. You know what that reminds me of? Waiting for an hour at the store, bored out of my mind with nothing to do as my mom shops. Video games were supposed to be my escape from that, not immerse me further in it. Finally, Talon gets out of the way and we talk to Zelda, who informs us that she had a vision of us coming, similar to the vision we had of her running away from Ganondorf. She then tells us the same story we already heard 20 minutes ago from the dead tree.
So much goddamn waiting.
And elaborates that the one who gets the Triforce will get one wish, and that wish wish, if wished by one with a pure heart, will bring prosperity and peace to Hyrule, and if one with an evil heart, will bring destruction. So the race is on. The goal is to get to the Triforce first. As it turns out, sages have built the Temple of Time to protect the Triforce, and that just so happens to be on the outskirts of town. 4 things are required to get in: the 3 spiritual stones, of which we have one already, and the Ocarina of Time. Zelda's personal attendant and protector, Impa, whose armor for some reason has a belly button, teaches us Zelda's lullaby. Music is strangely a core mechanic in Ocarina of Time. I say strange because although it's used to get essential things done, and it's also in the title of the game, it's not something you're ever gonna think about when you're not using it, or at least I didn't. You see, different songs accomplish different things after you learn them. Zelda's lullaby gains you entrance into areas that have the symbol of the Triforce. There's a song that changes day into night and vice versa. There's a song that causes storms to occur, and once you become an adult, each temple has a song associated with it that transports you to its entrance, essentially functioning as this game's fast travel. All these things are imperative to progress, but at the same time, it doesn't sit with me. You know, after playing a game like the original Mother on the Famicom, if you asked me what the game is about, the use of music would be one of the first things that comes to my mind. The collecting of the music melodies felt significant, but when I think of Ocarina of Time, even with the name of the instrument in the title, I just don't think of the ocarina. It doesn't cross my mind. I think of swinging my sword, using magic, emptying my bowels at the sight of great fairies, because those things are just so gosh darn scary. It's not necessarily a bad thing, I just feel that everything accomplished with music probably could have been done without it. At any rate, this is where the game really opens up to the rest of the tutorial. I don't know if this is a common sentiment or not, but I consider the rest of the Child Link section of the game to be one incredibly long tutorial. The mechanics of the game are unraveled very slowly and restrictively. Like for example, in this section you need to get the Fire Spiritual Stone from Darunia, the leader of the Gorons. He makes a deal with you that if you open up the cavern for them where they eat rocks and get rid of the pesky Dodongos inside that want to eat them, he'll give it to you. So this section is all about bomb use. But since you're a little kid, bombs are too heavy for you. You can't carry them around in a sack, so you can't just go around willy-nilly throwing bombs all over the place. You need to rely on bomb flowers. Yes, that's plants which are bombs.
Oh boy, what are we having for dinner today, Mama? Silent. What's in it?
Oh, just some plants from the garden.
Alright, sounds great!
I appreciate not wanting to overwhelm players, but if the point of this game is to be a big open world with freedom, then give me freedom, man. Let me hold the bombs in my inventory and choose when and where I want to use them. Don't force me to remember all the places I wanted to use them and then come back as an adult for the sole purpose of using them. It feels very forced as well, which makes it feel even more like a tutorial. You got these big, strong Gorons who can carry around bombs as they please, and they're asking a small child who doesn't pick up bombs without assistance to get rid of the beasts so ferocious that they eat adult older men? Darunia literally says, "Why don't you destroy Dodongos and prove you're a real man?" There's no reason under the Hylian sun why these walking, talking monsters should be relying on a small child to accomplish what they need for survival for them, other than forcing a very slow-paced tutorial down your throat. Let me carry bombs in my inventory like an adult if you're going to shove adult tasks down my throat. Now it's time to talk about the main mechanic. Those of you who have played this before know what I'm talking about, but for those of you who don't, the main mechanic is time travel. After you gain all 3 spiritual stones and return to Hyrule Town, you see your vision come to life, and Zelda tosses the Ocarina of Time away. You use the Ocarina and the spiritual stones to get into the Temple of Time and pull the Master Sword out. Pulling it out turns you into an adult. Putting it back turns you into a kid. And this leads me to the aspect of the game I struggle with the most. I don't get the story of this game, like, at all. At least not up to this point anyway. Alright, let's talk about the story. The very thing that so many people loved about this game back in the day. I don't know about you, but when I go inside the Temple of Time, I don't see no Triforce. I also don't see a sacred realm, or even a gate to a sacred realm. It's just a room with a sword. When Link pulls the sword out, we see a scene of Ganondorf saying following Link brought him to the gates of the sacred realm. But what is he talking about? I didn't see that. This is a visual medium, not a book, so no need to imply things here. Show us. Don't tell us. Then we appear as an adult in a weird psychedelic room, and an old man tells us he's one of the ancient sages who built the Temple of Time. He tells us that this room is the Chamber of Sages inside the Temple of Time. Apparently, the Temple of Light is in the middle of the Sacred Realm, which, again, we never get a glimpse of. Pulling the Master Sword out of its pedestal is the final key to the Sacred Realm. The Sacred Realm has a very strange sequence for getting into it. You know, first you gotta collect 3 stones, then you play a song, and finally you pull a sword out of a stone. I find it very hard to believe that Ganondorf couldn't get all this done much faster than a little child. To be fair, Rauru says the Master Sword is an evil-destroying sacred sword that evil people can never touch, so Ganondorf would fail at that one part. Although I don't see what's stopping him from grabbing some rando off the street and forcing them to pull the sword for him. Heck, once he got soldiers following his orders, he could get one of the guys just following orders to hold the sword for him, so it would remain in his possession. So, I don't really get this part either. Rauru has gotta be, what, hundreds, maybe thousands of years old? I thought that maybe being inside the Sacred Realm preserved a person, caused them to stop aging. However, Link has been kept inside the Sacred Realm for 7 years, although for him it was all in the blink of an eye, so I guess he was made unconscious for those 7 years for some reason. His body has aged 7 years in that time, so now he's an adult. Why was this done? Because Child Link was too young to be the hero of time, but now that he's old enough, he can awaken. Unfortunately, the side effect of this is that Ganondorf followed Link into the Sacred Realm, got the Triforce of Power, the other two Triforce pieces went their way since Ganon didn't have a pure heart, Ganon became the King of Darkness, his power radiated from the temples, and in 7 years transformed Hyrule into a world of monsters.
This doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. What do you mean that Link isn't old enough to be the hero of time? He was already doing hero of time stuff. I mean, Child Link was turning day into night and night into day. The kid was summoning storms. And once he learns music that transports him to the entrance of temples, he's doing that too, as a child. Now maybe what they're talking about is the combat side of things. Child Link isn't big enough to swing the Master Sword around, and that's fair enough. But you know what you could do in that situation? You could train Link up for 7 years in a secret location in the ways of combat, while Ganondorf dilly-dallies through the tulips because he literally does not have the ability to get into the Sacred Realm without Link's help anyway. You know, that's what the owl could have been good for. The owl could have been the wise, old, mystical creature that guides young Link to the secret location to be trained up, instead of shooting his soul 7 years into the future without any combat knowledge or muscle memory. Speaking of the mystical realm, what happened there? According to the mythology's account, whoever enters into the mystical realm should have immediate access to the Triforce. If it's somebody with a pure, balanced heart, then they get the whole Triforce, and if it's somebody with an unbalanced heart, then the part of the Triforce that most resonates with them goes to them, and the other pieces go away Dragon Ball style. Link was the first one to get into the Sacred Realm, therefore he should have gotten the entire Triforce. Or, if his heart is unbalanced and courage is the strongest part of his personality, as can be seen by his actions, then he should have gotten the Triforce of Courage, and the other two pieces should have gone away. But since Link is the one to activate it, so to speak, that should have propelled Hyrule into an age of peace and prosperity, because Link is the one that gets the wish, not Ganondorf. Sorry Ganon, you snooze, you lose. The early Link gets the Triforce. At least that's how I thought it was supposed to work, but apparently I'm wrong about that, and I'm not sure why. It feels like a pretty significant plot hole.
After all that, Link meets Sheik the Sheikah, who informs him of the 5 temples with sages resting inside. Because of Ganon's dark power resonating, the sages can't hear the call from the Sacred Realm to awaken, so Link's gotta go wake them up in person. Enter the best part of the game, in my opinion, the temples of adult Link. The first one, the Forest Temple. If you watch my channel, you know me. I'm all about the vibes and the story, and the vibes are vibin' in the Forest Temple. Before, the Kokiri Forest and town were thriving with the Kokiri people and nature, in harmony. But the curse begun in the Great Deku Tree spread to the rest of the forest. Now you have to watch out for evil Dekus, Wolfos, and patrolling moblins. I love the atmosphere of the Forest Temple. It's dark, foreboding, overgrown, and unkempt. It's filled with angry spirits called Po, and although Po exists through all of Hyrule, I personally suspect that these Po are once living creatures consumed by the hate and evil of Ganon's curse in the forest. The music matches the atmosphere perfectly. This track is the reason why I break out my Ocarina of Time CD more than my Majora's Mask CD. In this temple, you use the hook shot, which is adult Link's version of the boomerang. Instead of just catching items out of reach, you're able to pull yourself up to otherwise unreachable places. Backtracking becomes more of a theme in this temple. This is where I became stumped for a while and looked up a guide. You see, there's this one hallway that changes by shooting an arrow into an eyeball switch. What I didn't realize is that you can come back and shoot it again to return the hall as it was, which is required to get through. Up to this point, eyeball switches had always been permanent. Shooting an eye closed it, and you couldn't open it back up. I figured an eye closing helped to get that across. I personally consider it bad game design that this is the only eyeball switch in the entire game that I can recall that you're able to shoot again and undo. Before, the switches were yellow and this one was gray, so maybe that should have given me a clue. The boss in this temple is Phantom Ganon, literally a fake Ganon. It's easily the best best boss so far. You see, while the game has emphasized Z targeting up to this point, here you need to prepare your arrow and wait. Multiple Ganons come out of paintings on the walls at the same time, but only one Ganon is the real fake Ganon. You need to determine which one that is and shoot him with an arrow before he shoots you down. After that, Ganon floats around and fires magic at you, which you have to fire back with the Master Sword. It's basically a 3D version of the fight with Aghanim in A Link to the Past. Once you beat Ganon, Link gets transported back to the Chamber of Sages, and Saria appears as the Sage of the Forest Temple, and I gotta say, it is incredibly unemotional. I don't know, I feel like there's supposed to be some kind of sadness going on here, because we know that Saria is Link's lifelong friend, and now she's a sage, which apparently means that she has to stay in the Sacred Realm forever now. Which, if that's the case, that sages stay in the Sacred Realm forever, then why is it that the Sage of the Temple of Light is the only sage of the original sages to still be around? Why do other random individuals have to be sucked out of their mortal lives to be turned into sages today? How is it even determined who's supposed to become a sage? There doesn't seem to be a vetting process that we can see. I talked to this girl 2 times before becoming adult Link, and there were no flashbacks to Link's time with the Kokiri. Maybe the game could have given us cutscenes of Link remembering his past instead of forcing us to watch the creation story twice within 20 minutes of each other. It was at this point that I finally decided to really go side questing. I know, pretty late in the game to be starting that, but what can I say? It's an open world. I can do what I want. So as a whole, I feel like this game kind of inverts importance. Whereas with most games, the main characters are the most interesting, in this one, they're the least interesting. Link has a lifelong friend he has to leave to go defeat evil? I don't care. Darunia made Link his brother in a ritual for helping the Gorons, and I don't care about him. Then there's a third dungeon Child Link goes through. He saves a little fish girl who's a princess from the belly of a giant fish that the fish people worship for some reason. Once he saves her, she promises him her hand in marriage, and later in the game it turns out she's the sage of the water temple, so she can't marry Link. And I don't care about her either. Also Zelda? I don't care about her. I talked to her 1 time. I got a surface level knowledge of her without any reason to be attached to her, and I just don't care. You know who I do care about though? The side characters. I swear Link actually ends up spending more time with the side characters than the main ones, and they end up being a lot more interesting because of it. Link's exposure to the side characters happens mostly through side quests. For example, there's a long fetch quest that starts with a Cucko lady, who ironically is allergic to cuccos. You help her catch all the cuccos that have run away, and then she gives you an egg for a type of cucko that won't cause allergic reactions. She wants you to make it happy by waking up lazy people. We just happen to know such a person, and that's Talon, who we already woke up in the castle. We wake him up in Kakariko Village and give the cucko back to the cucko lady, who then gives you Kojiro, a cucko which used to belong to her brother and hasn't been happy since he disappeared. Her brother is a character you will have already become well acquainted with by this point. He's among a family that helps build and repair Kakariko Village, but he's always depressed in how he looks at the world and finds it difficult to be motivated to do anything. He finds the world to be a disgusting place and people in general to be disgusting, a relatable sentiment for many people. As it turns out, the cucko lady's brother has been spending his time in Kokiri Forest. You give him his cucko back. He gives you a mushroom you have to deliver to a potion shop, which gives you an odd potion in return. If you take this back to the Kokiri Forest, you'll find that Grog, the cucko lady's brother, has disappeared, and a Kokiri tells you that any adult who gets lost in the forest becomes a Stalfos. Knowing that guy got turned into a Stalfos, I actually cared about that. It made me sad. Then at the beginning of the side quest was interacting with Talon again. Well, as it turns out, Talon's handyman Ingo has taken over his ranch and kicked him out while keeping his daughter Malon there. As a child, Link makes a connection with the horse Epona at the ranch, and as an adult, challenges Ingo to a race for money and beats him using Epona. Ingo then bets Epona on a second race, and when he loses, he locks Link in the ranch, but Link escapes. Link then informs Talon of what's happened, and Talon returns and takes back over the ranch. All these side characters and stories are so much more interesting than the main storyline. There's a humanity in these smaller stories that doesn't exist in the grand, simple yet somehow convoluted main storyline. I should care about the plight of Princess Zelda, and I should care about what happens to the Kokiri and especially Saria, but I don't, because they're cardboard cutouts for the sake of the tutorial. Meanwhile, the technically less important characters are actually people, rather than just tools to move the story along. Even the Postman is more interesting than the lore significant characters. He's a part of another side quest where you borrow masks from a mask salesman and find the appropriate person to sell the mask to. You give one mask to a soldier who blocks your way to Death Mountain at first, but lets you through after you show him Zelda's permission slip. He makes comments about the popularity of masks and how he wishes he could get one for his daughter, so you sell him one, and just from this, the soldier you potentially only talk to a couple of times feels more real than the important characters. Another mask you sell to a little kid you meet in a graveyard. For some reason, this kid idolizes Damp the Gravekeeper and wants to grow up to be just like him. He thinks a part of that is being creepy and scary like Damp, so he eagerly buys the scary mask from you. Then finally you sell the Bunny Hood mask to the postman, who is on a mission to train and become the fastest man alive. Bunnies symbolize speed to him, so he happily buys the bunny ears from you when you're a kid, and then you meet him again as an adult and he
He challenges you to races that you can never win because no matter how fast you become yourself, he truly has accomplished his goal of becoming the fastest man around. I got the majority of side quests like these done before heading off to the Fire Temple, including getting a large number of gold Skulltulas killed. This is another really fun side quest in the game. There's a family in Kakariko cursed to be spider people until all the gold Skulltulas are killed. Every 10 you kill turns one member of the family human again. There are 100 gold Skulltulas in total. The first 50 revive the first 5 people, and you get really nice rewards, including the adult wallet, which holds 200 rupees, the Stone of Agony, which, if you're on an original N64, you attach a rumble pack, and it'll rumble when you're near a secret. If you got a Switch Online controller, you don't need an attachment. The Giant's Wallet, which holds 500 rupees, bomb chews, which are bombs that move in whatever direction you point them and can climb up walls, and a piece of heart. All of these are really useful in their own way, and so you would think that the final reward, which requires double the Skulltulas that you got to get this far, is going to be a really awesome reward, but no. If you kill all 100 Skulltulas in the game, which you need to get through 95% of the game to do so, all you get for your trouble is an infinite amount of gold rupees, which are worth 200 rupees each. That is crazy disappointing because by the time you get this, there's not going to be anything left in the game to buy. Even if you want to buy consumables like bombs, you'll never have any trouble finding enough rupees in the grass and bushes for that. It's a shame because killing all 100 Skulltulas over the course of the entire game is such a build-up for such a disappointing conclusion. I wouldn't recommend anybody getting all 100. Just find 50 and call it a day. After I got as much side questing done as I could, I went back to tackling the dungeons. The next one was the Fire Temple. I had an easier time with the Fire Temple than the Forest Temple, but that's probably because there was no point in the temple where I was stumped by an individual puzzle or switch. Ganon has kidnapped the Gorons and put them in cells inside the volcano of Death Mountain to be eaten by a fire-breathing dragon. You speak to Darunia right before he goes to fight the boss without the box key somehow, and who knows how he got all the way over there or why he can't help you to get over there too. But Darunia sucks. I'm not joking. There's actually an imprisoned Goron right next to Darunia when we see him, and he just leaves the poor guy.
What an asshole!
The dungeon is pretty linear if you play it right. First you need to get the fire tunic from the only Goron left in the village to keep you from burning up alive. Then you need to find the Megaton hammer, which pushes down rusty switches and large objects you couldn't move before, all the while freeing the Gorons as you go. The boss is pretty good, but not quite as good as Phantom Ganon. It's essentially a game of whack-a-mole you play with the hammer. Once you beat him, you find out that Darunia is a sage, which you probably could have seen coming by now. The Water Temple sucks. Nobody likes it, everybody knows it. The only person that actually kinda likes the Water Temple is the guy who dedicated a 30-minute video about how not good the whole game is. I can break this down really simple. The thing that makes Zelda games so much fun to most people is exploration. Ocarina of Time is all about exploring. The Water Temple makes exploring tedious. It punishes you for not being right when you explore. It turns exploring into something I don't want to do. This is because of the combined mechanics in the dungeon. First you gotta get the Zora tunic to breathe underwater. No big deal. But you also need to get the iron boots, which allow you to walk underwater. Walking underwater is already slow in and of itself, but the process of changing your boots every time you want to get in and out of the water slows you down just as much. Let me put it to you this way. Imagine you're playing the game. You just entered the water dungeon. Oh boy, a new dungeon in the game. I can't wait to go exploring, you think to yourself. So you put on the iron boots, sink all the way to the bottom, and pick a hallway. You get to the end of the hallway, and you go back into the pause menu to change back to regular boots. You get to land, only to find out that there's nothing you can do here yet. So, you go back to the pause menu, put your iron boots back on, and go try another hallway. Maybe that one is the right one, or maybe it's the wrong hallway, and you need to repeat the process you just did. Now, if you haven't played this game, that might not sound so bad. And it's not, at first. But when you have to take those boots on and off again and again, and especially if you become stumped as to how to progress in the dungeon and start walking around in circles, it starts to become like nails on a chalkboard. Add to this the mechanic of the dungeon of the water level. You need to raise and lower the water to different levels to accomplish different things. So imagine taking your boots off and on again multiple times and then realizing, actually, I need to change the water level. So you go to the specific spot that has the Triforce insignia, play Zelda's Lullaby, change the water level, put on your boots and go where you think you need to go, and oh my god, this still isn't the right spot and I don't feel like moving another step. I just want to turn the game off. It doesn't help that there's one thing in the temple that a lot of people get stuck on. Although whereas I genuinely believe the switch in the Forest Temple was bad game design, I think getting stuck here is the player's fault. In the center room of the temple, there is a piece that floats up and down with the water level. There's a key underneath at the ground level you need to raise the water to get to. It's something I should have thought to have checked way sooner, but I just didn't, and I ended up going through the same section of the temple again and again for way too long trying to figure out what to do. The boss unfortunately doesn't help this temple's case. It's this ball that uses water to move around and attack you, but you just wait for it and use the hook shot to draw it out. out. Not very entertaining. However, Dark Link is a sub-boss in this temple. That's right, one of the coolest parts of Zelda 2 that you probably don't care about because I'm the only one who actually likes Zelda 2 apparently, returns as a really cool part of Ocarina of Time. Seriously, I actually love this part. First you enter the room that appears to be an infinite puddle with a single barren tree in the middle and 2 doorways at opposite ends. It's an aesthetic I absolutely adore. You walk around, but you can't find anything to do or see, so even though you can tell the door is locked, you go to the other end of the room anyway, but you can't get through, so you turn around and walk back to the tree and wham! It's Dark Link, my old friend.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
The difference between this and the Zelda 2 version of the fight is that you can't stand in a corner to win. You actually need to engage in real combat. Dark Link starts out tamely, but becomes more aggressive the more hits he takes. If you have trouble with him, there are 2 bricks you can use. First, if you get the big Goron sword or even the Giant's Knife, Dark Link can't block against it and it does a lot of damage. Then there's a fire spell you get from a Great Fairy, which also can't be blocked. I personally take the strategy of trying to get some good hits in first with the Master Sword, then break out the Giant's Knife and Din's Fire for the latter half. I'm glad they included the Dark Link fight here because otherwise the Water Temple would have been a complete wash, no pun intended. After the Water Temple, you can either go to the Spirit Temple or the Shadow Temple. I personally went to the Spirit Temple, but to get there, you first have to get the Eye of Truth from the well in Kakariko Village as Child Link. And let me tell you, this place is more creepy than it has any right to be. It straight up turns into a horror game down here, and I'm a little surprised it was able to retain its E for everyone rating with some of the stuff you see here. I mean, just look at this creepy thing. It looks like Jabba the Hutt without the melanin. Got all these hands that stick out of the ground. If you get too close, they grab you and just hold you there while Jabba slowly slinks over to eat you. If you told me that this wasn't a Japanese horror movie, I would believe you. The Eye of Truth allows you to see things you otherwise couldn't. It's how you see a friendly ghost that gets you across the desert to the Spirit Temple. Before that, you end up saving this family kidnapped by the Gerudo, a tribe composed exclusively of women except for one man born once every 100 years who becomes their king. It turns out Ganondorf is that one man this century. It's interesting to see a reverse Chinese culture where all the males born are probably killed because females are preferred. After Link proves his strength against the Gerudo, they accept him and allow him passage to the desert, and I think this might be my favorite temple, right above the forest one. You have to come here first as a child to meet Nabooru, a leader of the Gerudo who strongly dislikes Ganon. She asks you to help her get the Silver Gauntlets, which are in an area of the temple she can't get to because she's too large. Once you get them, 2 witches capture Nabooru and you have to come back later equipped with the Silver Gauntlets as an adult, allowing you to pick up even heavier objects than you could before, giving you access to the adult portion of the temple. Once you get through, you end up fighting a brainwashed version of Nabooru, and after you free her, you fight the witches using a mirror shield you find in the temple, reflecting their magic back at them. The fight is pretty cool because it's reflective of the journey through the temple itself, no pun intended. Just as you tackle different aspects of the temple as a child and an adult, so now you need to fight the witches with opposing magic, fire against ice and ice against fire. Every situation requires the appropriate response. You can't fight fire with fire or ice with ice anymore, then you can move the large blocks as a child or squeeze through the tunnel as an adult. Very similar to how the game as a whole has been up to this point. The final temple, for me at least, is the Shadow Temple, and it's literally just the well part 2. Where the Eye of Truth was used to get to the Spirit Temple, it's used to get through the Shadow Temple. All the creepy stuff is back, including walls made of human head skeletons and Jabba the Hutt minus the melanin. The Shadow Temple utilizes another set of boots similar to the Water Temple, except it's not tedium incarnate this time. You use the hover boots to get across chasms and large spaces you couldn't get across by jumping. It also treats the ground like it's ice with the way you slip and slide around on it. The build up to the boss is almost as good as in the Spirit Temple. You get on this floating boat and fight 2 Stalfos as it makes its way to the other side. Then once you're at the end, you have to hop off of the boat as it falls into a pit. There's something cinematic about this part. It feels like something that would be in some kind of ancient mythology. A boat guiding you through the realm of the dead, taking you to your final destination, if only you can pass the trials on the way. The boss is a good one too. It's the evil spirit of the well. The battleground is a giant bongo the boss plays, which trips you up and prevents you from being able to attack it. You have to wear the hover boots and Z-target the hands. Once you do, you can attack. The whole attacking the hands and then the eye thing really reminds me of fighting Andros in Star Fox 64. Once you beat all the temples, you're ready to go fight Ganon himself, but before you do that, you've got a choice to make. Are you going to 100% the game or not? The Nintendo kid in me wanted to at first, and I tried, but there was a part of the game that I can't get to work right, unfortunately. As I said earlier in the review, there are these angry ghosts called Poe, and there's an old man who lives on the outskirts of Hyrule Town that collects them. There's supposed to be 10 large Poe in Hyrule Field. Every time you sell him one, he makes a mark on his store card, and once you get all
about 10, he gives you a bottle, but I was only ever able to get 9. I looked up guides and went through all the locations again and again, but no angle or direction ever seemed to activate whichever large Poe I'm missing. I even made a short and a TikTok asking people for help and showing them all the locations I've been going to, offering to include them in my video if they could help me. Unfortunately, nobody was able to help. Most told me they thought I must be missing the big Poe off the bridge by Zora River, but that was actually the first one I got by chance. That little bridge just looked too significant to me to be nothing, and I turned out to be right. So I know for a fact that I got that one. I tried for way too long to find that last Poe, and it just never happened. But I appreciate everybody who tried to help me, and if you are watching this video, I hope you guys are enjoying it. So I opted out of 100%ing the game and made my way to the Temple of Time where Sheik returns. Except it turns out that it's not a he, it's been a girl this whole time. Oh my god. It's just like Metroid. Zelda informs us that once Ganon got the Triforce of Power, instead of scattering to random locations like the Dragon Balls, the other two pieces became imbued in people with the same traits as them. Zelda got the Triforce piece of Wisdom, and Link got the piece of Courage. She says that now that the sages are all awakened, they'll lure Ganondorf back to the Sacred Realm and seal him away there. They just need Link to protect them as they do so. Zelda gives Link the only weapon that can penetrate the defenses of the evil king, the Arrows of Light. And then just like that, Ganondorf telepathically traps Zelda and says he knew she would reveal herself if he let Link wander around. And, okay, this part actually makes sense to me. Ganondorf didn't just aggressively attack Link because even if he defeated Link, then that might mean Zelda would go into hiding forever and he'd miss out on his chance to get the Triforce of Courage. And if I understand it correctly, the new sages don't realize they're sages because of Ganon's evil power resonating in the temples. They need the Hero of Time to destroy that evil so the temple can then awaken the chosen ones as sages. Once that's done, that's when the sages have the power to seal Ganon, which is probably why Zelda didn't aggressively attack Ganon with light arrows before meeting Link again as an adult. I still stand by that Ganon should have just been attacked before entering the Sacred Realm. I realize this all began with the visions of children who didn't have any wisdom for consideration, but it was the Great Deku Tree that sent Link on his way to stop Ganon and the owl that further egged him on. This whole thing could have been averted by the talking owl telling the king that Ganon sucks cuckoo butt. Heck, if his story corroborated with Zelda's visions, then the king should be likely to believe it. By the way, speaking of the Great Deku Tree, I forgot to mention that after the Forest Temple, a new Deku Tree is born, and informs Link that he's not a Kokiri, he's a Hylian. He's a Hylian child whose mom died after running away into the Kokiri forest. That's why he grew up and the Kokiri didn't. It's technically a plot twist, and if the game had built up his connection with the Kokiri, it would be really impactful, but it didn't, and the Great Deku Tree tells Link so nonchalantly that it feels like unimportant knowledge in passing. But okay, we're at the home stretch. Using the power of the sages, Link creates Rainbow Road to Ganon's castle. Inside there's a force field protecting the stairway going up to Ganon. You have to make your way through the hallways to pop evil magic balloons to bring it down, then make your way up to finally fight the big man himself. The fight with Ganon can be broken down into two parts. First, inside the castle, he causes the floor to fall away, very similar to the final battle in Mario 64. You slap his evil blasts back at him, just like with Phantom Ganon, except this time Navi doesn't help you Z-target because Ganon's evil is just too powerful. Once you defeat him and save Zelda, Ganon starts to bring the whole place down. You run outside, and Ganon transforms into a form much more similar to how he looked in the first two games. Even though Ganon seems like he's more powerful now, Navi is suddenly able to help with the Z-targeting again. The fight is actually pretty easy. Just hit Ganon with a light arrow, smack his tail, rinse and repeat until he's down for real and the sages seal him in the Sacred Realm. This is where the story stops making sense again for me. Somehow Ganon retains the Triforce of Power even though you've got Link and the sages right there. I'm not sure why they don't just take it from him and give all the pieces to Link so that the whole Hyrule turned into a paradise thing can happen. Zelda says we need to return the Master Sword and seal the Temple of Time again, which I guess if we're gonna let Ganon have the Triforce of Power, then I suppose that makes sense. But Zelda also says that this will seal the door between times and she's going to return Link to his original time. Which, how does that work? Is Child Link going to grow up and just accept that there will be a clone of him that pops into existence in 7 years? Is he just going to make sure he doesn't interact with that Link once that happens? What is he even going to do during those 7 years? Is he going to avoid all the people he knows so that he doesn't destroy the space-time continuum by changing the past he grows up in? Because nobody who saw him as an adult has seen him since he was a kid. Does he just travel to a distant land and live a normal life? Or is this one of those alternate timeline things like in Dragon Ball or Haruhi Suzumiya? Because if so, then this whole thing is literally pointless. He should have been allowed to grow up regular and face Ganon with his improved skills from 7 years of training, or sneak attack him before then. If that's not possible, then Link's own timeline is screwed and he's being forced to live in it after saving a different timeline. That's pretty dude.
Meow, meow, meow.
Well, I didn't think it was the greatest game ever made like some people seem to, but I also didn't hate it either. I felt like it was too large with too little to do in it, and I felt like the story suffered from being a poor execution of really good potential. Which I mean is nothing a good rewrite can't fix. But having said that, I thought the side quests were fun, I thought the side characters were quaint, and I thought the gameplay overall was pretty good. It's a game that I enjoyed playing through one time, and then probably never again. I don't think this is a game I'm ever gonna revisit.
Meow, meow, meow. Meow, meow.
Oh no!
Meow, 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 meow.
Stop in the name of the law! Oh my god! You killed him! My buddy! My roommate! No! Oh, well, we all gotta go at some point. Hey, once you're off duty, you wanna go get a bite to eat? Maybe some coffee and donuts? Well, sure, I just got off duty a half hour ago. Sweet, nice! Wait a minute, if you're off duty, how are you at my house right now?